to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Well, welcome back to Inside Personal Growth in another episode. Joining me, you're in London, right? London, England?
I am in London.
All right, is Tiffany Gaskell, and this is the book we're going to be speaking about, Coaching for Performance. She's got Sir John Whitmore's name above hers, but she is now the CEO, correct, of the organization? And
Yep.
this is the 6th edition of this book, and it's the world's #1 coaching book. Tiffany, good day to you. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure. Lovely to be here, and thank you for having me, Greg.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And I'm glad you're going to be addressing all of those out there who not only are coaches, probably, but those that are interested in maybe even being coached, who listen to the show. So, everybody, you're in for a treat today because you're going to learn more about coaching for performance, a little bit about John Whitmore, and something about Tiffany. So, Tiffany is the CEO, as I said. She's spent 20 years working with C-suite at Fortune 500 companies, working on corporate culture evolution, change management, and is the creator of the Performance Curve TM, a model that helps organization and leaders understand how their leadership style impacts performance. She's a regular presenter, keynote speaker. She has a background in investment banking and having previously worked at Credit Suisse in New York and London. She has a BA honors from Bristol University, an MBA, and an SDA. What's the name of it? Bocconi?
Yeah, that's Bocconi, MBA from Bocconi, which is for all the Italians out there. It's in Milan.
Okay. Well, tell me, Tiffany, how did you get into this? And why has it intrigued you so long? And how long had you worked before for Sir John Whitmore before he passed away, and then you kind of took this over? Give us a little history.
Yeah. So, I got into this. Well, let me take you back to it was really the turn of the century, which sounds a terrible thing to say, but the year 2000, I was sitting on the trading floor of a bank. And what I realized was that leaders didn't know how to lead. And this is the thing that I have been inquiring about ever since. And what we do now is give leaders the skills and the training to do that. So I set off in a direction. I went to do my MBA in Bocconi. I left the bank, went and did my MBA. And when I went to do my MBA, what I realized was that there's so much you have to learn on an MBA, which, about the management of the company in so many different ways. And there's very little space for organizational design, development, and also leadership. And that was the thing that I felt was missing. And so I came across to John Whitmore. I saw coaching when I was actually in Italy. It was the first time I saw a demo. I thought it was the most extraordinary thing because I saw someone who was weighed down by their all the interferences, the baggage, the weight of things that they were carrying with them. And as they worked with a coach in a demo, they literally put down these bags, these worries like bags. And at the end of the coaching demo, 15 minutes later, that person was standing there looking like they were in their full potential and like they could do anything. And they had that confidence and self-belief. And when I saw that, I thought, wow, if organizations had that and if leaders had the ability to channel those skills, then that would be game changing. And really that's how John Whitmore.
You basically had, I'm sorry, but you basically were letting them through the coaching process, let go to become themselves. And people always say, well, what does it mean to become yourself? It means that you have the freedom not only for expression, but to access parts of your brain, believe it or not, that you wouldn't have otherwise when you're able to do that. And it truly is an amazing thing to watch it. I know that I went through full training programs with Richard Barrett, who originally started at World Bank. And if you look at the organizational kind of consciousness, you're looking at cultural changes, but also individual changes along the way. What kind of leaders are we evolving into? Meaning the people that need to be leaders. Now, this edition of the book is the sixth. There aren't a lot of books that get to make it to the sixth edition. So I think a lot of the listeners out there, not just what are the changes, the significant changes, but how does it really address today's evolving leader and the workplace dynamics? Because look, we're experiencing what I would call a lack of leadership in this country right now, our country, the US, simply because we had people vote in someone who does not have that consciousness. Right? I don't think they've ever been coached a day in their life. So the reality here is how does somebody out there who's sitting there who maybe hasn't found a great coach? And also for the coaches that are listening, what is it that's really different in this sixth edition that's kind of kept pace with this evolution of leadership?
Mm. Well, first of all, as you say, the book is the world number one coaching book. And I think one of the reasons it is because it's so timeless. So John wrote this book originally in 1992.
Mhm.
He was the first person who called coaching coaching. So he coined the term performance coaching. And from that, all forms of coaching that we know in the world today were spawned. So he's really the godfather of the global coaching industry. And in the book, what we've done with the sixth edition is bring it right up to date. So when he was still alive, we moved it from being what it was, which is regularly described the Bible of the coaching industry, to it being to it being a how-to manual. So it's like for leaders, for coaches, for people in organizations, because it's really got to be something that people can pick up and get practical use out of. How can I transform my workplace for the better?
If people listening, Tiffany, want to go to a website to find out more about the services that you are offering, whether it's somebody who wants to be trained as a coach or somebody who's looking for coaching, what's the best website that you want to send them to?
Mm. Performanceconsultants.com, and also people can connect with me on LinkedIn, and you know I'm I will be delighted. We've got a special offer just for your listeners, which we will reveal at the end of this.
Okay, that's awesome. We appreciate that. We always appreciate that. So you've built on Sir John Whitmore's original work. So what new insights did you bring to the table regarding this edition? When did he pass? When did he pass away?
In 2017.
Okay. So from 2017 to 2025, you, the organization as the CEO, have had a lot of time to build upon this work. And as we've had such dynamic changes in our working environment, COVID, all the other kind of things, distance working, you've had to kind of evolve this thing, I'm certain. So I'd love to know what some of the changes are, and we'll definitely direct people to you. And for our listeners, as Tiffany just said, she's gonna offer something at the end of this, so stay tuned.
Yeah, it sounds like one of those, doesn't it? So in terms of the book, in terms of what we've done is, I mean, we are in such a different world to 2017, aren't we? I mean, who ever imagined that something like COVID could happen. And what we've seen as a result of that is, and we've included the most up-to-date research and case studies, is that there is a real shift in the workforce. People want to do something that they feel that they are fulfilling their potential through and that they have meaning and purpose. For future generations, it's absolutely key. I was speaking to someone the other day about someone that I'm working with from who's a millennial, and they were saying that, what I want when I'm working is I want to feel that what I'm doing is worthy of me dedicating my life to it. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? I mean, I don't think I ever thought that. So I think that these days, organizations really have to rise to meet the needs of the generations that they're serving.
Oh, most certainly. I mean, I've noticed it in even my children, right? It's like, where is the meaning? Where is the purpose? Where is the inclusion? You're not working, or they're not working for a paycheck. But in our work environments, whether it's Airbnb or it's General Motors, you've got such a diversity of population and age. You have new people coming in, older people leaving. You still have this, and I remember, Chip Conley kind of being the sage at Airbnb. He was recently on here, and he said, he was in his late 50s at the time, and everybody there at Airbnb was in their 20s, right? 22, 23. And the founders were really smart to have hired a sage like that to actually coach and be there all the time. And Chip wrote a great book about that. But the reality is that you've got the same situation for coaching for performance, right? You just said it's like, hey, where's the meaning? Where's the purpose? And if not, these organizations which are experiencing enough turnover already and lack of engagement, they will experience more if they're not coaching for what we just talked about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to define what we mean by coaching because there are two parts to it, right? And this is when we were rewriting the book, we were really thinking about the two different audiences. Well, there are three actually, but I'll come off that last one.
Yeah, here are.
But there's the coach, right? So this is the one that comes to mind when we think about coaching. It's the executive coach, it's the life coach, all that sort of thing. What we're doing is we're focusing on coaching in organizations. So that's the first one. The second one is the leader. And so this is a leader who can use coaching to supercharge their leadership and they can therefore create high performing teams, high performing cultures. So that's crucial because then you get coaching into the DNA of the organization. And then the third one is when organizations do this at scale. And that's what we do. We work with multinationals, we work with companies large and small. But the ones that, people will have heard of are companies like Johnson and Johnson. We're working with them in over 20 countries and enabling them to bring coaching skills into their leadership at what we
Well,
call
you're coaching the coaches. So, no, what I mean is, so big organizations like that. So, for you listening, whether you're large or you're small, there's a champion. There's many champions, but those champions then become kind of the coaches, and those coaches are within the organizations, right? That's what you do is you build a model where where they
exactly.
don't actually need you. They can do it themselves with this and the other tools you provide. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yes, so the internal cohorts of coaches, yes, and there are leaders who take the coaching skills into their work. And so that's a different thing again because it moves from formal one-to-one coaching to coaching with a small c, it's sometimes called. But this coaching that is happening every day, 365 days a year to within the organization.
So, this is an off the wall question for you, but with the advent of so much AI today, even Marshall Goldsmith created an AI coaching model. And I do realize that these AIs can be trained a lot, and they're not human beings, but they are helping in the process. Has, your organization embrace these AI models, or are you going to, or what's actually happening? I'm sorry I went off the track there on the questions, but it's so intriguing to me to see what's being done with coaching on AI.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because this is the field that is developing, isn't it? And people are working out what that field looks like. Um, us in the coaching industry are, and I think that it comes down to you know, so there's the human to human um coaching engagement, which so that will always have its place, right? But then what else can we do beyond that? What can we do at really low cost that AI enables? And that's really, complementary to the
Right.
human, which is much higher cost, obviously. So I think it's really exciting what's happening. Um, sometimes I worry about it because I mean, coaching can so easily get a bad name, and so they've got to be good, right? It's got to be an experience that enables potential to come through, does not create issues along the way. But as long as the quality is there, then it can only be a good thing because it gets coaching to more people.
I think it I think AI can enhance, like you said,
Mhm.
it doesn't take over the human. Look, I went back later in life and got a degree in spiritual psychology. Would you say that that was part of coaching? Most definitely, because most of the people that come out of that program become great coaches. The reality is that there's this human element that if someone is a very astute coach, intuitively pick up on the signs and things that are going on with people, the stressors, the things that are going on in their family life, all the kind of things that get weaved into that. Um, and your organization has a growth model in its evolution, and the growth model remains kind of the central theme of the book. Um, how has its application evolved in modern coaching practice? And the second part of that question is, if you would share an example where the growth model has been pivotal in transforming an organization. I'm sure you've got a lot of examples.
Thanks. Great. So, the GROW model is the most used coaching model in the world. So and John published it in that 1992 edition. He is the creator of it. And essentially, in the book, we tell the story of how it came into being. And it started off as this like, seven-step thing, and John was like, "Oh, this is way too complicated." So they got it down to the four-step, and I kind of love the simplicity of it because every time we take it to into organizations, it's so logical, right? So G is for goal, and this is, I mean, a great question that goes with that. If anything were possible, what would you love to happen? Okay. In relation to this project, in relation to whatever it is. And then the second one is R, reality. Okay. So where are we now? So right there, you've got a gap analysis. And that's such traditional consulting approach. But the thing is, very handy to understand that because we're naturally learning systems as human beings. So once we understand that, then we can all start orientating towards the goal. And a lot of times in leaders start off with the reality. And what we need to do is we need to get the goal. What is it that we would love to happen here? O and W, options and will, so what could we do? What are the options? And what will we do? So it is a route map for leaders. And what's great about it is it's great for the left brain because coaching, great coaching can be quite nebulous, right? And so people are like, oh, what is this coaching thing? What's happening here? But actually, it's very practical. This is something you can just pick up and use. So,
That's very practical, because you're starting with basically saying, what's the goal? Right? And what are the results? And you're looking at the gap in between because we're always looking at gaps. I wrote a book called Hacking the Gap, A Journey from Intuition to Innovation and Beyond. And I always said, when you look at that, it's like, okay, I'm trying to close that gap. And how can I do it as quickly as possible? And one of the things that comes up for me because I've recently been asked to do a talk for a business group, and I thought, okay, what am I going to speak about? And I said, the growth mindset, the Carol Dweck stuff
Mm.
versus the fixed mindset. How does this address even this model? Somebody who's in this fixed mindset versus the growth mindset, because when you really look at those things, I mean, most everybody on the show knows who Carol Dweck is and the work she's done at Stanford. But the reality is, it's such a great term when you think it's somebody with a growth mindset.
Mm. Yeah, I know, I love her work, and, the thing I'm thinking about is that we work, a particular client that we had, which was called Linda Engineering, and they are the people you won't have heard of them, but they are the people who put the fizz in Coca-Cola. So,
Okay.
industrial gas, okay, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So, safety issues going on here. And the thing that is really exciting with those organizations, which are called high reliability organizations, they are organizations where if something goes wrong from a safety perspective, then someone could be harmed or even die.
Mhm.
And so they really measure their culture. And this is what organizations in the world need to move towards, because once you're aware of where your culture is, then you can work on it and you can improve it. So, coming back to the growth mindset, in that safety environment, the goal there is goal zero. Okay. Now, this is a what's possible. This is a dream goal. Okay.
Right.
And that is the amazing thing because it's aspirational and it gets everyone out of the, okay, so we're going to get safety incidents down by such and such. It gets everybody into the what's possible. And so organizations in that safety environment are focusing on zero accidents. And that is a growth mindset because
Yeah.
it's not kind of like, oh, that's not possible because of this, that, and the other. It is a stepping into the what if. And I think that's really exciting. And so when we worked with this organization, we within the first 3 months, they had a decrease in safety incidents of 70%. And that is by
That
bringing
is a tremendous result. You know, when you look at the goal and the R, result, that's a huge result to be able to do that. And again, that's through mindset.
yes.
Shifting that mindset of the people to look at that. I always remember this great saying. Believe it or not, it was Peter Drucker who started it. And he said something out like this: when you look out the window, what do you see that other people don't that you could do something about? Right? And the reality is if you can get your organization to be looking like people are saying, I looked out the window, what did I see that others don't see that we could actually change? That's a huge thing for people to get, right? Um, Now, your organization has pioneered tools like coaching for performance ROI and performance curve, which is yours, I take it. Um, how do these tools quantify the impact of coaching on an organizational performance? I know it's like, okay, we just talked about results because that's like, okay, I want to know what's actually happened. And what challenges, let's make this a two-part question as well, do organizations face when implementing measurement tools? Um, and how can they overcome them? Because there's certainly challenges. It's like, okay, you want to measure me. Okay, I'm not really interested in being measured because you're going to get resistance.
Mhm. Yeah. So to start with the first part, those two tools, so coaching performance ROI and the performance curve. So they are very similar, but for different uses. So, and you spoke to this, Greg, it's about the mindset, right? It all starts with the mindset. And so what we do is we go from mindset all the way to bottom line result and bottom line performance. And we basically track those two and we correlate those two. So with coaching for performance
Do you
ROI, and
do that, Tiffany, through assessments you're giving them, or is there
yeah,
a dashboard that somebody sees that you've created where somebody in can actually see the aggregate of 1,000 people and what the progress is? How does all that work?
exactly that. And it works because it's built into our one-to-one coaching engagements. So, yes, that evaluation will be built in. And it's, it's written up in the book, so you can go check it out. I think it's chapter 17. And,
Hold it up. So you're saying the baseline when you come in, and after that, you're looking to looking to shorten the gap, okay, between what it is they'd like to see. Obviously, you said perfection, which is almost impossible in the case you used for Lindy, but the difference between that and the result that they would like to experience. Now, they don't always expect that result, but your software and your abilities to work with your organization allow them to measure that, right?
yeah, exactly. So what we see generally is an 800% return on investment and from coaching engagements. Um, and it's fantastic to see, someone talk about, okay, so I changed my mindset in relation to, for example, this one example that's coming to mind, a manager who was a micromanager. He had been a micromanager. And when he worked with a coach, he changed his leadership style. And so he empowered his team. And someone in his team went off and found a loophole in legislation that saved the company over $6 million. And so he put that down to completely 100% confidence level that it was related to the coaching. Obviously, that's a much higher ROI than the 800%, but I'm just showing how mindset has an impact on bottom line.
Oh, most definitely. And I think even as individuals who are listening here, we're talking about things that you can do, whether you work with a coach or you pick this book up and read it on your own and apply the practices. You certainly can change your mindset. Look, this show has been 17 years, over 1,200 episodes on the air around personal growth, business, wellness, and spirituality. And all 4 of those people said to me, "Well, why are you have those different genres?" And I said, "Because the situation with somebody becoming, higher performing, whether you're looking at, the physical performance or the mental performance, all comes around you changing your mindset." Um, so in leadership and the culture, in your experience, what are the key traits for transformational leaders? In other words, hey, there are leaders, and then there are leaders who are striving to always be better and to transform the organization and the culture. And how can coaching people like that cultivate more of these traits for them to become better and better? And how does fostering a coaching culture contribute to inclusivity and trust within organizations? Um, our president had the foresight, I should say, unfortunate foresight, to get rid of DIY. But the point is that, well, we'll talk about inclusivity later. I'm joking because it's not really funny, but the reality is it is affecting a lot of places.
So, one of the things that happens when leaders step into transformational leader is that the culture that they are leading shifts from a fear based culture to a trust based culture. And in a trust based culture, there is inclusivity, there's psychological safety, there's everything that you would expect from that very highest performing leader. And the reason is that if we go back to, John back in the day, back in the 1970s, he worked with Tim Galway and Tim Galway of the Inner Game. And Tim talks about an equation, which is performance equals potential minus interference.
Mhm.
And that sums up all coaching, and that sums up what transformational leadership is doing inside an organization. It is literally clearing out the interferences, that we as human beings have every day, fears about this, that, and the other, and enabling potential to come through.
Well, that's a great, recommendation that you just gave for people to actually get that book and purchase it and understand because it is that simple and it is the interferences. It's simple yet challenging to get rid of the interferences because many of them are created by our own beliefs about what it is that we have to do or should do as a result of who we work for or what we're doing in life. And I think, again, working with the mindset and the beliefs that we carry and the negative beliefs that we have about ourselves and also our regrets, all of these kind of things are the things that affect our performance, right? Um, I know that Stephen Kotler's been on here 5 or 6 times, and it's all around the Flow Genome Project, right? Which is, he talks about all the factors associated with you having the highest performance without this interference. Whether you're an athlete or whether you're an executive or a CEO of a company. And again, it's learning how to work with the people around you. So that brings this question up for me. You know, we have had since 2017, when Sir John Whitmore passed away, to today, as we've already mentioned, such rapid changes in the global work environment. I mean, I don't think you and I could have predicted it, but the reality is that the uncertainty that we live with today is more apparent to almost everybody than it ever has been. And we're talking globally, whether they work someplace or they work for themselves. Where do you see the future of coaching headed in this next decade? So let's take 2025 to 2035. And how do you think this is, not one, going to grow, and two, be delivered, and three, be effective?
Well, those are all huge questions. Thanks.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. I like to throw out good, juicy questions because that's my job as an interviewer.
I mean, the future of really, the future in so many ways. I think we need to, as humankind, we will find our relationship with AI, and I think that will settle down in that period.
Okay, that's a good one.
And that really will dictate, a lot of other things. So,
Well, let me ask you this, Tiffany.
yeah.
Easy way to answer this question without making it so challenging. What, when you look out the window, what do you see that others don't that you could do something about at your organization?
That's a lovely.
Because, I know we can't predict the future. We don't have a crystal ball. But we certainly, I think it was Steve Jobs who said in a speech to Stanford, um, the only way that you can make an impact is by connecting the dots and looking forward. You can't look back. So whatever happened before with COVID and all that other stuff, it's gone. What we need to be looking for is what is outside the front window and how do I connect the dots? Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
if you were connecting the dots today, what would you advise the people listening to this podcast to do with their coaching?
Yeah. Well, I think coaching has got such a huge role to play in what's going to happen next. It is the midwife of future consciousness, if you like, because coaches are working with future leaders. They are enabling that transformational leadership, that leadership that thinks about future generations and the planet, that takes a different view. So there's that. The other thing I think about is that I think that we are still in the hangover of the Industrial Revolution. I don't think we've ever really decided, okay, so as organizations, how does this need to be? And that's what I was saying about organizations measuring their culture. Organizations are unconscious about the conditions that they create for their people. And
And what do you think the hangover is? I have an idea
Hmm.
that hangs on because people, even leaders, are afraid to let go of that because they really don't know how to embrace what really could be.
I love
I
that.
mean, you following me? It's like, hey, I'm sitting here. What am I afraid of? If
Mm.
I have this command and control environment, which you still go in organizations where that is, um, and COVID really did a lot to remove that command and control environment. And now everybody's saying, well, no, get back to work. You need to
Yeah.
come back into the office now, right? We're seeing more and more of that. And so, my question to you for this, for CEOs and leaders to not be afraid of what really could happen, what do they need to unlock in their brain?
Yeah. That is exactly it. So we talked about the performance curve before. We never actually got around to talking about it, and this is it. So what happens is, when I was talking about performance equals potential minus interference?
Yeah, it's the interference.
Yeah. So guess what? So every single organization in the world will fall into one of four categories of culture. And the second lowest performing culture is command and control. So what leaders need to do to get out of that is, first of all, to realize that it's not the highest performing culture. And secondly, you said let go, Greg. And I think letting go has so much to do with it, right? It's like trusting your people, putting your confidence in them, and enabling them to find that platform through which they can fulfill that potential through their work. And it's easier said than done, but this
Why do you think, Tiffany, that
yeah,
leaders not removed from the workforce have a fear of allowing somebody to become who they could become within their organization with an aligned goal toward, another organizational goals? I still believe there's huge fears with leaders to have that. And I think one of the things that's there is, you know, I don't know if this still goes on today, but we used to look at human capital value on the balance sheet, right? And they know they have to cut those paychecks. So now they have their KPIs. And I think that works directly in converse relationship is throwing KPIs at people. Pardon me, but it's true because I need to report to my board of directors that this company is healthy, that things are going good. Where have you seen an organization in your coaching models where they've actually been, I mean, I think Patagonia is a pretty good example, but the reality is we all point to Patagonia. Well, who besides Patagonia is out there that's actually done something, right?
yeah. I think that, I think KPIs have their place. The thing is that it has to be KPIs and purpose, because otherwise I mean, I left banking because the I thought to myself, "What am I doing that is contributing to the world apart from making rich people richer?" And so I needed a purpose in my life. And the generations that are coming up through the workplace today, they are not going to settle for anything less. So KPIs have their place. Purpose needs to be there, meaning purpose, and then you have rocket fuel.
Very, very, I mean, if there was a formula where you put that together in the book, that would be good. Now, look, we've got leaders listening. We probably have individuals listening. What initial steps would you recommend to start building in an organization if it's a leader or coaching culture that say, oh, we don't have coaching right now? Or for an individual to actually say, "Oh, you know what? I really realize I'm blocked in a lot of areas." In the old days, it's, well, let's go find a psychologist. Well, today you can just go find a coach. Now, I don't want to say that all coaches are psychologists, but all psychologists or coaches, the other way around. What I'm here to say is that there are some really good coaches for those that are listening that are individuals, and you could find them through the website. And definitely, if you've got an organization that's never embraced coaching and you're just starting on this path and you have that same fear, okay, what would you tell them?
I would say that come and talk to us, and we meet people where they are. So we take them as far as they're happy to go, and it's only upside because what we're doing is, this work that of bringing coaching into organizations, it positively impacts the leaders, it positively impacts their teams, and it positively impacts organizational results. So triple win there. And we will give you the tools to help you navigate, skeptical leaders or whatever it is that's going on in your particular world.
So again, the website for that is, repeat it again,
So performanceconsultants.com. And
performanceconsultants.com. And you're going to want to go there. And I would say that before I ask her the last question, I'm going to ask her what she's offering all of our listeners.
yeah. So for leaders and coaches, there are two different pathways, right? There's transformational leadership. So that's like this is the course that leaders can take to supercharge their leadership skills. And then there's the performance coach pathway. So this is ICF accredited. This is for people who want to coach inside organizations. What we're offering your leaders and your coaches is 10% of our global courses. So we got global public courses going on. And so if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, I will point you in the right direction.
Okay, so they need to go to your LinkedIn. And so what we'll do is we will provide for them the link to your LinkedIn account. And so what you're going to find when you go to the website is all these resources. You'll see the information about Grow. You'll see the information about the book under resources. So you can either buy it there, or just go directly to Amazon to get a copy of the book as well. You'll see some client stories, what they do, about them, and so on. So do that. And in the upper right hand corner, there's a contact button. I don't know if that goes directly to Tiffany, but she said just go to her LinkedIn. We're going to put in the show notes her LinkedIn account so that you'll be able to see it in the show notes below. So for those of you who are listening and still listening, go out directly to, and you're going to get a 10% reduction in the cost for these coaching programs. So let's wrap this interview up with a core takeaway. What do you want it to be if people are still listening right now after 45 minutes and they've said, hey, there's a lot here to digest. Look, see the size of the book? But the reality is, if you were to go through this book, would it be, your grow model? Would it be, what would it be that you would tell them, hey, you can apply this today and it will have a result with you and potentially with your workforce?
Yep. So the book is really for two audiences. So it's for the leaders and coaches. Organizations are a part of that, of course. And so think about, okay, so, which is the lens I'm coming to this with? How do I want to leverage coaching? And then look at the book from that perspective of, okay, me as a leader or me as a coach, because there are different resources in there for leaders and for coaches. So, for example, if I'm a leader, I might think, right, I want to set up a great team spirit right at the beginning. So, in there's co created agreements, go straight to that. For coaches, you might think, right, I want the great question bag on coaching and how to get to the dream, get out of the transactional into the transformational coaching. And you'll find question bags right at the back there. So it's really a toolkit for everyone.
Well, and I'm going to this now. So for those of you who want to become a coach, maybe just take the coaching course and you want to. Maybe you're in a smaller company, but you want to coach your employees. Literally on there, you just click the button and you can inquire directly. And there's a syllabus for the course. There's actually certification in a course. Just real quickly about how long does that course take? Is it online? Is it pre-recorded? Is it live? And what might the investment be for a company wanting to put somebody through the coaching?
Mm. So those courses that are available to the public are they are online and in person, like global. So whatever time zone you're in, the foundation module is about 1,500 investment, and in terms of time, it's overall is 2 days, and it's spread over 3 months. So that is something to bear in mind when you're thinking about how do I want to approach this? What kind of time investment and monetary investment as well?
Okay. Well, 1,500 is a reasonable amount of money. It's also spread out over time, the reality, and you get a certificate and you're certified through performance consultants, correct? And you have a certificate now as a coach. And I think it's important because the tools they give you, the foundation that they give you is really important. So, Tiffany, you have been an excellent guest on Inside Personal Growth. You've informed my listeners about everything we set our intentions when we set out to do this podcast. I want to thank you for the insights that you've given us about your own background and how you started working with Sir John Whitmore. Also, I think that however it came about, they've picked the best CEO they could to run this organization. So kudos to you. Thank you for being on Inside Personal Growth.
Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you for having me.
Namaste.
Mhm. Namaste.